they were standing up, and it was like laughable. You know what I mean? You can't
Yeah.
really grasp until. Oh, God,
Face
the
to
cops.
face.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
That's intense. 15 years with him.
Okay. Yeah, they would do a lot of stuff.
They did a lot of gigs.
School stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't pay a lot for the musicians.
Okay, cool.
We they weren't fair about it because like we Shannon and I paired him like got to gigs that were one of the gigs was in church and it was AC/DC, and then Christmas Eve and Easter would be different cars, but it would be three different churches, and all morning, all afternoon, all evening. And there's like 4 bands. And then I got called by Sarah, who's like 11 wrestler. And so it's going to be you kind of have to know what you're getting into with them because they weren't going to change, and it was good experience, and there was some good things about it, but they did take advantage of these financial. Wes was really tight needed it. 15 minutes to a 3-hour rehearsal was time. He relaxed though. The last year we played, we were doing a gig at graduation, and we actually went and had a beer during the weekend. We didn't get back fast enough to play the session. We were having beers. So that was a big. You got the trailer out back?
Yeah, I got the RV. Got the red cups for break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you should have driven the RV here.
I know.
That's sick, right?
That was a running joke last year. It's a mini tour. Hey, congratulations on your graduation ceremony. That was Mark's fault. Yeah, and trouble. Red cup. It's fine. I live with it. Hey, kids. So I thought I'd check it out. So I went in and to the store and
Probably do something.
got a fitting that didn't charge me for that. And got maybe some other better clubs than that for $99 a club. And these are like $350 a club, which is stupid. This is the petrol. The petrol. That's what I thought.
But it might sound cool if you play that one.
This is the one I thought it was. Yeah.
Good evening. Please rise for the procession of the 2022 graduating class of Glendale Preparatory Academy.
Please remain standing and join us for the singing of Gaudiamus Igitur. The lyrics can be found on the back of your program. Gaudiamus igitur, juven estum sumus. Gaudiamus igitur, juven estum sumus. Post iucundam totem, post molestam sedictotem, nos habebitumus, nos habebitumus. Vivant nostra societas, vivant studios in, vivant nostra societas, vivant studios in, crescat una veritas, floriat fraternitas, patriae prosperitas, patriae prosperitas.
You may be seated. Good evening, parents, graduates, family, friends, faculty, and all of those watching via the live stream. Today we are gathered to recognize and honor these graduates for what they have accomplished. They have successfully completed a rigorous course of study in the liberal arts. Graduates, this is yet another significant transition in your lives which calls for reflection. Reflection of what you've accomplished over the last 4 years. Many of you have completed 2 years of calculus, some of you 4 years of foreign language. All of you have sung in 2 choirs and performed in 2 plays. You have read, annotated, and discussed nearly 30 novels, studied thousands of years of history, and many of you have taken 4 lab sciences. And this does not even include your extracurricular commitments and accomplishments. Traditionally at commencement, I reference a book that you've read. I note some truth from the text that applies to your life and your future. However, I want to do something different this year. I want to talk about you. You are a special class in many ways. For me personally, I've taught nearly all of you, many of you 2 times. You're the class that missed many traditional high school experiences due to a worldwide pandemic. When you were in middle school, you were in class, and I prophesied that if you matured to care about meaningful things as much as you cared just about being together and hanging out, then you would be one of the greatest classes to come out of Glendale Prep. I will return to my 5-year-old prophecy, but first, I want to share with everyone here how I would describe you. You are a class that is honest and real. You share what you are thinking. You do not hide your emotions. And you live out candidness. It is clear when you are joyful, which is generally the case, and clear when you are struggling, tired, bored, or frustrated. You never hesitate to share your opinions. You wouldn't even sing the school song when Miss Muir asked you to on the bus, and that one hurt. Seriously, it did. But I digress. They didn't want to sing it. And I said, don't make them sing it if they don't want to sing it. When many of you saw parents in the parking lot, some of you parents are out there right now, parking in the student lot, you let me know. And boy, did you let me know. I was like reading Locke's treatise on government, some of these emails. But change came. I have never doubted your knowledge of our expectations or rules. However, at times I wondered about your commitment to what is good. But this is where you're a unique class. You questioned, you pushed back, you broke rules, yet always, immediately, at least to me, you fessed up respectfully and worked for restoration. You're a mixed bag of rule followers and confessors. So it was very difficult to get frustrated because I never doubted your care for me, your appreciation for your teachers, your love for one another, which brings me to the second way I would describe you. You are a class that cherishes people over circumstance. You know how to love. You have not always loved, but you do know how to love. It goes without saying that you all face circumstances that broke the souls of adults, and yet you lived through it. It was as if you didn't skip a beat when you came and returned to school. Socializing took place immediately. For this entire school year, you sat on the ground in the gym lobby to eat lunch together, no matter how many times I offered to get you chairs and tables. That will never happen again. I am buying more tables. You're the last class that does that. You could have any table, senior's choice, and yet you were satisfied sitting on the ground because you were together. I never saw anyone alone. No one would know that many of you came in at different times, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. And if I did not see you talking with one another, I saw you talking with a teacher, seeking a teacher out on your own to spend time and chat. Your love of the human soul brings me now to the third way I would describe you. You are a class that is endearing. This is not only because of your personality, and there are some personalities, but because you did not become self-absorbed going through and coming out of the pandemic. You took every opportunity to see others and to think of others. You always say hello before someone else says hello. You always look people in the eyes when speaking. You have never been that simple passerby or try to fulfill some unspoken decorum or prep school formality when you pass by a teacher. You talk and chat because you actually care. Let me list some of the ways you were endearing, even when it was confusing or frustrating sometimes. Ian Penny could forget his book every day in class, but then make you smile and appreciate his contributions in discussion. And I'm curious on that slideshow, whose book was that, Adam's or yours? Okay, we'll talk about it later. See, he wants to talk, right? Karen could ask for help 100 times, even though her first 99 attempts were good. But the way she comes to you in humility, apologizing on the way in, talking and on the way out, who could say no? Sita could sometimes not be in the best mood. She could tell me she was tired and she just wanted to go home, but then say hello and ask about my day and my family. I went an entire middle school year hoping Nikita would smile. I told my best jokes of my career, and I got nothing. 5 years later, he says hello to me and smiles without me initiating anything. Might even be at my computer sometimes. Hey, Mr. Navarrete. Wait, who was that? Right. There's this group of guys, 4 or 5, who pile their trash at lunch in the middle of the table. I cringe every time. It wears me down. Hey, you guys going to throw that away? Yes, Mr. Navarrete. And then you come back and the table's clean. I can storm out at midnight on the senior trip to yell at kids for just hanging out in the halls. And even before I can yell, Jonas says, "Hi, Mr. Navarrete." I think that's the first time I never said hi to you, Jonas. I think I actually said, "Don't hi me, get in your room." I can always count on hearing Lily's voice, someone on campus say, "Hey, Mr. Nav." Is that a pretty good Lily impersonation? Lizzie Staples all of a sudden started wearing a uniform every day during the hottest months of the year. I noticed a non-metal bracelet. I would ask her from time to time if she was wearing it. "Hey, are you wearing that bracelet?" And she would hold up her arms so the sleeves came all the way down and say, "What bracelet, Mr. Navarrete?" Seniors always letting me win in Texas Hold'em. Not true at all. They're the worst poker players ever. They should never gamble. Logan Pennick raises every time. When he doesn't raise is when you should be worried, right? Every time. Rachel, every day in 7th grade, when you left my class, you said thank you, and to this day, you say thank you as a senior. Cole, fake laughing at my jokes when he really wanted to laugh, but knew the fake laugh would drive me insane. Then I would argue that I'm actually a funny guy, all things considered, and he'd say, "It's true, that's true." Mark can break some rule that doesn't even exist, but now we have to make a rule: no doing handstands in the bathroom. We hammer him, he says he's sorry, and then the next time you see him, he asks for a hug, and I say, "No, I'll shake your hand." And the list goes on. So now back to my prophecy. Did you mature to care about meaningful things more than simply hanging out, joking around, and having fun? Are you one of the greatest classes to ever come out of Glendale Prep? Well, let's review. I said you were honest and real. In many ways, you unintentionally and unknowingly honor the truth. Seek it out. You reject what is false and are not fake in your interactions. You're a class that cherishes people over circumstance. Is there anything that captures greater beauty than another human soul? Companionship, friendship. Lastly, you're a class that is endearing. Despite all the madness you lived through in high school, seeing suffering upon suffering and heartache all across the world, you brought goodness to others, to one another, and to me. and for that I am truly grateful. So it seems, after all, you did care about truth, beauty, and goodness, even when it appeared you were just hanging out. So did you mature? I believe you did. Life required that you did much more quickly than any generation. For that, I am extremely proud of each and every one of you. Congratulations. Now, to begin our addresses tonight, the Academy has selected 3 graduates, 2 salutatorians, and 1 valedictorian to speak on behalf of you, the senior class. Why 2 salutatorians? Well, we considered the academic accomplishment as well as the character. Both young ladies are honest, perceptive, diligent, and have great fortitude. Both have contributed not only in the classroom, but in extracurricular activities. We could not choose, so we want to honor both of you. Please welcome our first salutatorian, Miss Brianna Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Navarrete, for your kind introduction. Hi, my name is Brianna Lee, and welcome to the class of 2022's graduation ceremony. Before I begin, I would like to thank everyone for being here today to celebrate this amazing accomplishment with us. We wouldn't be here today receiving our diplomas and venturing off into adulthood if it weren't for the love and support of friends, family, and our wonderful faculty over the years, helping and guiding us through our darkest moments. So, if you couldn't tell by my straight dark hair, warm skin, and oval eyes, I'm Asian. I'm Vietnamese, specifically, and proudly so. But I wasn't always proud of my heritage and identity. Discrimination has followed me throughout my childhood. Since I started attending Great Hearts in 4th grade, I have been perceived by many to be intelligent solely because I am Asian. In retaliation, I would pretend to misunderstand a concept when someone asked me for help, or when I was feeling especially moody as a middle schooler, I would outright refuse to help people. I didn't want to be the smart Asian kid. I grew more disdainful towards achieving good grades during high school because I endured fellow students pulling on their eyes and saying Asian slurs around me. Looking back on it now, I know at that age, those who have hurt me were blinded by ignorance rather than motivated by true malice. But that doesn't make it any less painful to remember or any less difficult to have lived through. I will never forget having to hold back tears as I sat listening to insensitive comments, wondering, why would someone say something so cruel? What did I do to deserve this? Is my love for learning that this school teaches us to cherish even worth pursuing if there are such awful consequences? Since then, I have searched and found comfort in different stories of marginalized individuals, both in and out of school. As I saw these heroes find confidants who helped them not only relieve their struggles, but grow beyond what society prescribed them to be, I turned to my friends, family, teachers, and fellow classmates for support. I began to feel less alone as I found people to carry my burdens with, and I am proud to say that many of them are in this room right now or watching from their screens at home. And I'm happy. I'm happy now. It took a long time for me to understand why Glendale Prep puts so much value in the community, but our school, our class specifically, is deeply united in our care for one another. Even as the diverse, slightly dysfunctional class that we are, we have learned to carry this difficult and sometimes burdensome responsibility to care for the well-being of others with pride and joy. Despite all the pain we have endured since we've been at our school, every day I continue to see genuine kindness from my peers because of our love and respect for one another. I urge you, continue to carry the weight of loving one another's so proudly with you into adulthood, because there will always be someone in whatever community you find yourself to be in, willing to carry it with you. As we venture off to college, many of you will find yourselves in situations where you feel alone. Whether it's because you're having a difficult time making friends, you miss your family while living across the country, or you're experiencing hate for simply being who you are, I implore you to remember that there is always someone in your community who can empathize with you. You found them here. They might even be sitting right next to you right now. There will be more people in your life in the future who will love and care about you. I know I'm asking a lot of you, but I've known you all for so long that I can say with confidence that you will find the strength to do it again and again and again. After today, we won't be seeing each other 5 days a week, 7 hours straight for 9 months a year. Our relationships with one another may change for better or for worse. Change can be difficult to endure, but have grace for yourself. We are all going through one of the biggest and most terrifying changes we've ever experienced in our lives so far. Even if this is the last time you see that person you used to pass notes to in class, or the person you used to lean on the most for support, never forget what we had here at Glendale Prep all these years. Every moment and interaction we've experienced in those crowded halls and classrooms have shaped all of us into the people we are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. I would like now to welcome our second salutatorian, Ms. Alexandra Hankish.
Well, being that we were part of a generation that experienced school online and through blended learning, I personally think that our grade has learned a lot about education and working together in creative ways. We learned about it in a way that not every class and not even every school in other countries may have learned it. For me, my view of the classroom last year was limited to my laptop screen. And I couldn't help feeling a need to grow more and more dependent on just myself to pass my classes. And I don't know if there was much more my teachers could have done to reach the online students, because I could clearly see that they never hesitated to give us all the support they could. But the isolation was simply ingrained in the nature of the online education system. The idea that no one could reach me, or that I was nearly alone with my 3 or 4 fellow Zoomies on the screen, was ever prevalent when we were trying to decipher lessons through poor mic quality, being kicked out of meetings and then accidentally missing the class, or simply being stuck in the waiting room. Now I'll put a pause on that old high school experience and talk a little bit about individualism. Individualism is oftentimes a good thing. It's how we express what's unique about us, and a lot of times that's how we feel special. But when individualism turns into something lonely, it becomes a problem. The isolation I felt online was forced due to the pandemic, but it illustrates an extreme example of how certain things that make us different can make us forget what we have in common. How skewed must my view have been not to notice that my friends attending class in person were just one call away, and that my other online classmates were willing to work as a team to pass our classes, even when we faced this roadblock in our education. It was as if the difference in our education method made me forget that we were all students in the same class, at the same school. And if I'm being honest, it really took me the whole year to master, if anything, the online learning technique and to realize that help was always there. And I was still exhausted by the end of the year and eager to come back in person. Truly, none of that was easy. But nevertheless, let us not get caught up in the over-exaltation of self-sufficiency, but instead, just remember the things that unify us in times of struggle and when we want to make a statement. No matter how different you feel that you are from everyone else, can you deny that all of us here are graduating together? No matter how many robes you wear, no matter how exactly we look, we're all going to walk across that stage and take our diplomas as one graduating class. Even something as simple as the formality of graduation is a group activity that brings us together whether we realize it or not. And our class is notoriously unified. So why not bring that empathy into college, where we'll inevitably need our fellow humans more than ever? And truly, loneliness can be a choice. Now, on the other hand, finding a balance between our uniqueness and what unifies us as humans can be a struggle. This problem shows itself when budgeting time for tending to yourself versus making time to help and interact with others. Every person has a special way of caring for their well-being, and for me, that might be crochet or playing the ukulele. But I found this past year that those activities of self-care were the first things I sacrificed when I devoted myself to a job or a school team, a sport, or to school. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed seeing friends and beloved teachers at school, gaining skills at my workplace, and honing my athletic skills on sports teams, but it was just that my priorities were formatted in such a way that I forgot about some of the most unique things about myself. And I personally think it had a serious effect on my personality. Now, the way that we organize our lives and choose to interact with the outside world is all that we're going to be doing for the next few years. And I know that many of you have filled out our housing applications and chosen classes and have made several other important decisions. And as hard as those early college decisions may have been, and for me, they're pretty hard, it's only the start. And this is why I feel it important to highlight that we're not alone in our humanity. Genuine community is made by some form of unification, so please keep being community members wherever you go. Now, just a couple days ago, an incident with the school escalated and ended up hurting me and causing me pain. Sometimes things just happen that way, and as unfortunate as it is, we all will face issues like that sometime or another. The reason that I'm up here talking about unity with a smile on my face is because I had a support system to fall back on when those last days of high school, which were meant to be truly celebrated, were made a little rough. Now, my family and my close friends gave me comfort and confidence, and usually, I like to try and solve problems on my own first, but here I realized that many of my friends have gone through the same sort of frustration and pain as I so recently have, and this led me to accept their help, and honestly, it was the best decision I could have made while in a moment of distress. Now, my parents stood up for me, and my friends are helping me find peace, and in doing so, they have truly rejuvenated my excitement for graduation. Now, graduation is not meant to be a burden. We are not meant to count down the days until we leave in a negative way. Even though I felt like doing just that a couple days ago, I changed my mindset, and here's why. I may still be angry and frustrated, but in a couple of hours, well, our class is small, it might be just an hour, I don't know. That anger is going to be completely irrelevant. We will be college freshmen by then, and we're going to be going to all kinds of different places, and I highly doubt that college me has any use for old tears and grudges. So here's our chance to set some of that baggage free. It'll be like letting a balloon of your old problems float away out into space. and hopefully it's going to prepare us for what we're all going to have to do next. Now, although it was tumultuous at times, to say the least, I can't thank you all enough for being part of the community that gave me grace as an online student, and that has helped me stumble along through this truly eternal senior year. And a lot has occurred within the last couple of months, regardless of how you feel about the school or about even the people sitting next to you. I encourage you all to be members of our class for one last time and to walk together as equals in potential who are more similar than different. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Both you and Brianna have lived out true inquiry. You fostered dialogue and have never hesitated to share your thoughts. There's only one recipient for the Academy's highest honor of valedictorian. This young man is an outstanding model of intellectual curiosity, academic excellence, and noble character. He worked tirelessly in his preparation and was fully invested in classroom discussions. This young man participated in numerous extracurricular activities. He was always welcoming, personable, smiling, excited, was always seeking to share his joy with others. I am very pleased to present to you our valedictorian of the class of 2022, Mr. Luke Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Navarrete, and good evening to all you friends, peers, faculty, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and my grandma who asked for her own shout-out. This is for you, Teta. I am honored to stand before you all today as the valedictorian of the class of 2022. Valedictorian, from the Latin valedicere, to say goodbye. It was one of the first words we learned in Mr. Carlin's Latin class in 6th grade, and now it's one of the last we'll hear together. I have never been good at goodbyes or good at expressing to people how much they mean to me, but today I have been bestowed this highest honor of offering a final goodbye on behalf of this class, so I'll try my best. Thinking back on our time together, one lesson in particular stuck out to me from all the way back in 6th grade. We were in Miss Valentine's Nature of Science class, and she said, "If you remember nothing else from this class, remember this: kindness counts for more than being clever." To be honest with y'all, I don't remember much else from that class. But that lesson, one that I have not always lived up to, held on to my soul and guided me these past 7 years. I have seen that lesson come to life in this graduating class. Y'all don't need me to tell you that these past 7 years have been difficult. The curriculum alone is tough enough, but on top of that, we've had to weather through plenty of other tribulations, persevering through a global pandemic, mourning the tragic passing of a beloved teacher, facing racism and other forms of prejudice on campus, and fighting countless other less visible personal battles. I bring up the pain and the suffering, though, because it is in those moments of stress and despair that I have seen the most beautiful element of this campus shine: our community. I would not be standing here today had it not been for Claire Cannon spending about 3 hours every week junior year teaching me one-on-one how to do calculus, or Stephanie Squires giving me something to laugh about every single day, or Lily Muir surprising me with a watercolor painting and a jar of honey just to say, "Hope you have a good day." In our moments of darkness, we turned to each other, and we walked together, hand in hand, until we could find the light. Now look at us. Look in the mirror. Look what's on your heads. We made it to the end of this strenuous journey, and we did it together. That is no small accomplishment, and I am immensely proud of you. Our lives will continue to be a series of highs and lows, of moments we're proud of and memories we cringe at. That is okay. We are not perfect, and we will never be perfect. We are not here to be perfect, though. We are here to strive toward the asymptote of perfection, never quite reaching it, but always moving toward it. It's perfectly okay to fall, and even to lie on the ground for a bit. Each and every one of us has during our time at GP, and with each other's support, each and every one of us has risen up again. Although we will be moving in separate directions, ending up in Chicago or Tempe, Tucson or DC, or wherever else, we will forever be connected through the imprints that our love for one another has made on each other's souls. However challenging, the time we have spent here has been valuable. We learned everything from music theory to physics to ancient Greek philosophy, had about 700 seminars trying to determine what makes us human, and have taught each other what true friendship looks like. Our time at GP has now reached its conclusion. The world is opening her arms to our creativity, and our job now is to leap into them and take our places. In doing so, we should never forget the essentialness of community. We are very lucky that we come from a small school. We are entering the ranks of the adults. In this life, we will face battles that will make us want to build walls to shield ourselves, sometimes even from our own faults. It is tempting to move with the flow of society, to give in to the forces of apathy and individualism, focusing only on our own success and disregarding our impact on the lives and well-being of others. This way of life is dangerous. We have experienced the beauty of community, and we have seen what trials and tribulations, love, empathy, and humility are able to overcome. Kindness matters. Compassion matters. Love matters. The future is calling out your name, beckoning you to take your place in it. Remember, though, that none of us made it here alone. Our success will always be dependent on the support of others. Once we receive our diplomas, we will each embark on a new journey, inevitably growing physically apart from each other. We must, however, continue to grow together, remembering how to build and maintain loving relationships that uplift not only ourselves, but those around us as well. We must grow together with the rest of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke, for your thoughtful address and how you exemplify for your peers, and particularly our younger students, what it is to be diligent, humble, caring, and a leader. Let's hope my firstborn with the same name lives a life like you. Graduates, to send you forth, the Academy has invited Miss Geraldine Olson to offer this evening's commencement address. Ms. Olson is currently the Chief People Officer overseeing recruitment, human resources, and professional development for Great Hearts. Geraldine's experience with Great Hearts' classical curriculum began for her in high school as she attended Tempe Prep in Arizona. She has worked for the organization since 2005, first as a teacher, then in various capacities connected to teacher recruitment and professional development. She has a bachelor's degree in government and literature from Claremont McKenna College and a master's degree in humanities with an emphasis on classical education from the University of Dallas. She and her husband have 3 children and reside in Mesa. If you remember, it was our pleasure to have Ms. Olson at our symposium in the fall, and we are certainly honored to have her speak with us again. Please welcome Mrs. Olson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Navarrete. And greetings to you again, parents and relatives, friends, fellow faculty, and above all, Glendale Prep graduates. Today we celebrate with you a wonderful accomplishment indeed, the completion of your K-12 education. You should be proud. You earned it. But what have you earned exactly? Is it the right to call your teachers by their first name? Is it the right for your parents to stop paying your car insurance? Or the right to start accumulating your own debt? No. This diploma earns you the right to one thing: voluntary lifelong learning. There are no more mandated classes in language or science or math or literature or philosophy or history or art or music or poetry or drama. All other learning that you do is voluntary. And we hope that you have received enough lovingly mandated education that you will now freely choose to continue your learning. Not just in college, but until you mature into old age. Your choices are important. As we consider these choices, I'd like to return to that text that we shared this last fall at the symposium. You see, family and friends of Glendale Prep, as is tradition, in October, the entire body of high school students returned from break having read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And together we spent a whole day discussing this rich story. It was wonderful, and I wish you all could have joined us. As you remember, strangely, this story does not begin with the famous creature or even our protagonist, Victor Frankenstein. It starts with the letters of a young man named Captain Robert Walton. Walton, of course, sets off on a grand adventure to the North Pole to discover many things until his boat is trapped in ice. And like Captain Walton, I find that graduates are often eager to set out on their adventures away from home, to chart their own course, to conquer the unknown. They want to, as I have heard many put it, change the world. And Walton wants to travel and discover great things to make a name for himself. He has drive and ambition, and he hopes to bring many good things back to humanity. What a dash of philanthropy. This guy could run for office. He asks at the height of his excitement, what can stop the determined heart and resolved will of man? The answer is perhaps nothing. Nothing can or will stop him except for the ice. But as he asks that question, if you recall, this is the moment where Victor Frankenstein, half frozen, enters the scene and offers his story, that cautionary tale of his own unstoppable course leading headlong to shipwreck. As a young man, having grown up with a loving family but also experiencing hardship, Victor sets off to the university to study, of course. As he progresses, he becomes emboldened that he has unlocked the secret of life, the power over death. He's discovered that something no one else has, something that he believes will change the world. But at the same time, a careful reader will pick up on other things that are at work. In his frenzy, he cuts himself off from his community, his family, even his enjoyment of nature. He becomes obsessive, and while he succeeds in creating a form of life, in his moment of triumph, he is completely overwhelmed by his creation. He rejects it and turns in horror, and the rest of the story follows the consequences of his rejection. It is a remarkable and sad tale of an estranged pursuit between equally lost characters. In Victor's confidence that he could change the world, his world is certainly changed. But he forgot to assess whether he would change the world for good. He starts with that question from Robert Walton, what can stop me, but misses what should stop me. He obsesses over the question, how will I do this, but not, is this good to do? Now again, before you judge him too quickly, remember what I said last fall. I don't believe the most terrifying element of Frankenstein to be the presence or actions of the creature, as horrific as the string of deaths in the text are. The warning of the text is that each of us could become Frankenstein, an ambitious and misguided young student who, though he blames fate much for his downfall, also has to repent much during his confession, one who is masqueraded as a benevolent creator and is not ready to assume responsibility for his creation. Okay, I know I sound like a bit of moralizing rain on your celebratory parade, but in our jubilee and our nostalgia and our optimism, we should perhaps leave just a bit of room for sober reflection. If we confront this possibility of ourselves honestly, as Shelley asks us to do, I believe we find hope. There is hope in our departure alongside Walton out of the story at the end, if you're willing to ask the hard questions. And as we try to find an answer, I offer that you should look back as you prepare to move forward. For it is the investments made into you from your teachers and your loving and patient families that you have available what you need to go forward with hope-filled confidence, not as a reckless, ambitious soul, but as a liberal soul. What do I mean by a liberal soul? I don't mean to make any political reference here. By liberal, I mean something connected to a liberal arts education. From the Latin, there's your last Latin word perhaps, from the Latin liber, meaning free. A liberal arts education is for a free person, a person well-formed enough to pursue a life of virtue, to contribute meaningfully to society. To illustrate such a life, allow me to introduce another, more modern story of a young man setting out to university with both a loving family and experience of sorrow. In his recently published book, Rescuing Socrates, How the Great Books Changed My Life and Why They Matter for a New Generation, Roosevelt Montas describes his journey emigrating from the Dominican Republic to the United States when he was 12 years old and encountering the classics as an undergraduate at Columbia University with their core curriculum. Montas's reflections, part memoir, part academic analysis of great texts, part commentary on today's university system, offer a stirring read. But one quote in particular has stayed with me. He says, "I had come expecting to learn about texts and authors, and little suspecting that these concrete aspects of what I'd learn would prove to be mere vehicles for a far deeper and transformative kind of education. That inward education came slowly, almost unconsciously. Listen to this. It was not like the flipping of a switch, but like the dawning of a day." This, for me, stands in contrast to the recklessly ambitious soul. Do you remember, graduates, that image from Frankenstein with the lightning? Early in his youth, the doctor sees this powerful image of a bolt of electricity hitting an old tree, brilliantly sending it into flames in one moment, but ultimately destroying it entirely. And he recalls this same image later in life, ultimately referring to himself as a blasted tree, because, as he says, the bolt has entered my soul, and I felt then that I should survive only to exhibit what I shall soon cease to be, a miserable spectacle of wrecked humanity, pitiable to others and intolerable to myself. The bolt of reckless ambition created a seeming moment of brilliance before flaming out and leaving destruction. Compare this to the slow, gradual, strengthening light of a soul pursuing what is true and good. That image, perhaps, that you remember from Plato of the soul turning to the light out of the darkness. So before we leave, consider 3 ways in which you might consider the life of pursuing the good as opposed to the ambitious soul. 3 differences. First, the ambitious soul will ignore parts of reality, but the liberal soul will seek to understand the fullness of reality. A soul truly free can see and understand what is real. It also pushes into the deeper reality of what could and should be. It doesn't ignore parts of reality that are inconvenient. It is not foolishly optimistic or blindly arrogant. And because of this, while the ambitious soul will limit questions, the liberal soul cultivates the right questions in a spirit of awe and wonder. That Robert Walton question is one in nature. What can stop the determined heart? But in his journey, Montas embraces a host of questions that he learns from Augustine, such as, what do we hope to achieve with our labors? What is our aim in life? What is the motive of our service? These are the kinds of questions that can challenge your sense of purpose, your motive, your aim through proper self-examination. Ambition shuts down honest questions in pride, and then when it fails, it devolves into cynicism, which questions everything indiscriminately. On that note, as has already been said, be skeptical of those in the university who advise you just to question everything. This kind of questioning does not prune your understanding, it tears up truth by the roots. It is violent, not nurturing, and like the thunderbolt, it will only leave a bunch of useless firewood in its wake. Next, the ambitious soul creates isolation, but you all, as liberal souls, are keen on creating community. When you examine your own motives and your desires and your dreams, as well as the things you have inherited and see in the world around you, ask questions alongside trusted friends, those who also pursue truth. Again, Montas notes that self-investigation is not only reflective, but it is conversational. There are only things about yourself that you can see through conversation with others. Montas also describes how liberal education will ultimately bring communities together. Liberal education, he says, serves what is a leveling function, sharpening our historical awareness of how the world has come to be what it is, giving us a shared vocabulary with which to describe and act upon it, and equipping us to communicate with others who bring different backgrounds and perspectives to the conversation. While the obsession of Frankenstein cuts him off from community and from nature, we allow others to challenge us and push us toward the good. And so finally, while the ambitious soul ignores responsibility, the liberal soul will embrace it. A liberal soul is not foolish enough to believe that it can control the world. It rightly acknowledges the world is much bigger than you, but it allows you to be responsible for your part. The liberal soul does not shrink from responsibility or overestimate one's power, but it finds a particular calling and a community, and it engages both meaningfully. You all have engaged your community meaningfully. Continue to do so. So there you have it, 3 distinctions between the ambitious soul and the liberal soul: how one views reality, how one views relationships, how one views responsibility. The choice is before you. Graduates, we are truly excited for you to set sail and to chart your own course. We want you to go with confidence and hope. We have always had great hope for you. Every day of instruction, your teachers showed up, and it was the result of their hopes for you. Don't forget that. As you go out from here onto your journey into uncharted waters, may truth be your rudder, may goodness be your compass, may beauty fill your sails, may the light of the sun graciously shine upon you, and may you ever turn your face toward that light. By the way, do all of this, graduates, and you very likely will change the world. Godspeed to each of you, and may you always know your way home.
Thank you, Mrs. Olson, for your wise and inspirational words and your diligence in years of service to our network of schools, which has blessed all of us in our calling. We have now come to the central moment of the evening in which the Academy will grant diplomas to this class of 2022. Okay. I have asked Mrs. Sarbacher to come to the podium and call the roll of the graduates.
Catherine Caledonia Babcock. Lindsay K. Bell. Sita Dharmendra Bhatka. Samuel Christian Bonesier. Jason Patrick Butterworth. Claire Naomi Cannon. Gabriella Nicole Chattel. Katrina Sarah Chow. Cole Robert Christensen. Teresa Lynn Covey. Joseph William Curran. Faith Harmony Dupree. Adam Christopher Edmiston. Adriana Teresa Gameros. Daniel Lorenzo Gonzalez. Alexandra Sophia Hankish. Audrey Faye Hawkins. Jonas Costner Johnson. Juwan Davisi Kalukaran. Nicole Kao. Ramel Odisho Kassam. Stephen Christopher Keith. Joanna Christine Ketchum. Abigail Deborah Krieger. Mercedes Elena Krieger. Dylan Orion Kwan. Brianna Lauren Trin Lee. Lily Danielle Muir. Luke Thomas Periscandola. Arushi Bhushan Parikh. Logan John Pennick. Ian Clark Penny. Colin McCann Pettingill. Zachary Matthew Randalls. Alexander Theodore Francis Rodier. Brendan David Rogers. Joseph Matsuda Sensikovich Gibo. Nikita Igorovich Shishkov. Cassidy Amanda Marie Silliman. Luke Saad Solomon. Jackson Everett Sparks. Stephanie Patrine Squires. Elizabeth Lee Staples. Mark Daniel Stone. Avery Cherry Solzer. Patricia Hannah Sabo. Samuel Aiden Terpstra. Joel Nathaniel Thurston II. Karen Hanny Waba. Eric Jonathan Webdale. Grant Finlay Wright. Rachel Louise Wu. Graduates, please move the tassels on your caps from the right to the left. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me again in honoring these graduates of Glendale Preparatory Academy, the class of 2022.
Thank you. Please be seated. It is our custom for a faculty member who is leaving to bring the final exhortation, and we have asked our beloved Mr. Lyles to bring it. Years ago, Mr. Lyles and I and so many of our colleagues were coming into Glendale Prep at the same time. In those years, he has built an extracurricular program in choir that has been phenomenal. He seeks that all students behold beauty, but also believes that every student can create beauty as well. He will be leaving us to join Cicero Prep, so this is truly a farewell to each of you and to all of us. Please show your gratitude and love for Mr. Lyles.
class of 2022, or the Fighting 22s, as Miss Roiger called you when you were unruly middle schoolers, it is time to say our goodbyes. And as we leave Glendale Prep, I have been tasked with the job of reminding you of the education you've had during your time here and exhorting you to live up to the ideals of the classical liberal arts you have studied. In all my time working for Great Hearts over the last 10 years, I never came to truly stop and think about the implications a name such as Great Hearts might have for a school. As I often do in my preparation for choirs, I merely let the words pass over me, knowing them to be good and important, but imprudently leaving them until later to be considered. It was not until recently, when a former colleague told me that she thought the name was rather cheesy, that I began ruminating over the name of the schools I have worked for a decade. For me, the name Great Hearts has always been exactly what I thought it should be, a goal. Through your education here at GP, we hope that you have begun the practice necessary to become great-hearted and truly free individuals. But of course, we don't mean the over-sentimentalized view of the heart offered by our popular culture today. So let us instead take a look back at different conceptions of the heart in the very curriculum you have all passed through in varying degrees of success and struggle. Having heart in a classical conception could possibly be seen as possessing what the Greeks called thumos, one of my favorite Greek words. Although there is not a good translation for this very important idea, one way to approach it is to think of it as a person's spiritedness, or a sense of righteous anger against the injustice of the world. It is the thumos of Achilles, of which the muse sings in the opening lines of the Iliad. Sing, goddess, the rage of Peleus' son, Achilles, and its devastation. But Achilles is an example of thumos unrestrained by reason. A better picture may be the guardians in Plato's Republic, loyal to friends, yet dangerous to any evil he or she may encounter. The Gospel of John has another, more recognizable example of having a heart for others. Christ, on the eve of his own passion, made a new commandment for his disciples. He ordered them to love one another, even as he has loved them. This is closely followed by the exhortation, no one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. After sharing in his ministry for years, Jesus no longer called his disciples servants, but friends, and implored them to be known as his followers because of the love they have for each other. A final concept of the heart you've encountered is that of the classical virtue of fortitude. This is the virtue that someone is urging you to practice when they tell you to take heart. As examined by St. Thomas Aquinas in his masterwork, the Summa Theologica, fortitude implies a certain firmness of mind, and this firmness of mind is required both in doing what is good and enduring what is evil. Which returns us to the echoes of thumos of the Greeks, but is tempered in the complete picture of the virtue, as Aquinas explains further. He writes, now fortitude involves bearing courageously with the weaknesses of the flesh. Moreover, a man's recognizing his own weakness pertains to the perfection that is called humility. If you have not only studied these virtues of the heart in class, but you have also begun practicing thumos, love for others, fortitude, and humility, you should have begun to form a moral imagination. Although imagination also often entails that which has to do with the mind, with hearts reforged in the fires of the great texts and ideas you have been exposed to, you are better able to imagine others as they truly are, fellow moral beings and persons, rather than objects whose value rests in their usefulness to you. Through your experience of wrestling with texts in conversation with one another and gaining insight with a wider view and understanding of the world, you are more equipped to see others in this important light. The moral imagination is one that allows us to see others, friends and enemies, as persons with inherent worth. This is the part of humanity that humane letters offers to those who engage fully in these life-altering texts. Your experience does not stop at a change of the heart, however. As important as that is, you have gained freedom through the liberal education you received. Unrelated to any political philosophy, engagement in your studies enables you to rise above your immediate environment, to live an intellectual life, a rational life, a life, as the word liberal implies, liberated and free for the pursuit of that which is true, good, and beautiful. You are also freer from your own disordered passions and preconceived notions, and less tempted to be merely accept ideas without thinking or be manipulated by others or by the media you are forced to consume. If you forget many of the facts you were presented during your time here, the practice of these arts has strengthened you, your moral and your mental capabilities. As you worked to join these separate areas of study together into a sensible whole, you were practicing the skills that make learning easier, more interesting, and more valuable. And with or without you knowing it, your work in these liberal arts has begun a process of training and perfecting you, aiding you on your individual journeys to become the best versions of yourselves, and growing not just in knowledge, but also in virtue. I was told on my first day of new faculty orientation 10 years ago, there is a reason our schools are called Great Hearts and not Great Minds. The curriculum you have passed through has caused you to strive against difficulties, to train your reason and passions, and to grow in the classical meaning of being great-hearted. And you have all begun this process of forming yourselves into great-hearted individuals. So, may you have appropriate and righteous anger at the wrong you see in the world, tempered by the self-knowledge of humility, the freedom to see others as inherently worthy, and the fortitude to love them to the very end. This is the Glendale Prep education, and I extol and urge you to take heart and keep practicing these great-hearted principles for the rest of your lives. This is how you can begin the work necessary to have a truly happy life and truly make the world a better place. Goodbye, and Godspeed.
Thank you, Mr. Lyles. You will not be with us next year, but remember, it's always a great day to be a Griffin, and you will always be a Griffin. We now come to my favorite part of the ceremony, the singing of our school song. Graduates, you were just moments ago below. I wrote this as if I was talking to you, so it's a little awkward, but bear with me. Looking up at us on stage, but now you have joined our ranks in our uneven ground. You are no longer students, but you're now alumni, even if it's been only for a few minutes. There is no greater joy to an educator than when students cherish the lessons taught. Our minstrel boy and his song teaches us about courage, beauty, fraternity, freedom, dedication, dignity, and sacrifice. We welcome you now to stand and sing this song in unity for one last time together, and I'll invite Mr. Lyles again.
Just them. Okay.
Take them. Family and friends of the graduates, thank you for sharing these beautiful souls with us for so many years. You as parents, your choice to partner with us is what makes our community so wonderful. We're excited to send these young men and women off with you as graduates. We wish you all a wonderful rest of the evening and a relaxing summer. Good night.